25 years is a significant achievement, one that is a proud legacy for us all in the not-for-profit superannuation sector. Many of you here today have been coming to CMSF for years, but only 4 people have managed to attend all previous 24 conferences. Sadly, one of this committed 4, Mavis Robertson, the founder of CMSF and AIST, is not here to celebrate the 25th birthday. A visionary, a mentor, a trustee director, a fund secretary and a friend, Mavis Robertson touched the lives of many in our industry, but no more so than Fiona Reynolds. So before we proceed with the rest of the conference, I'd like to invite Fiona to the stage to present a tribute to Mavis.
CMSF was never just a conference. In the 20 years of its existence, it's assisted in bringing other organisations into being, or it's assisted them to survive. We've done a lot and we can be proud of what we've done.
It's really a great honour to be here today to celebrate Mavis, her life and her many achievements. And many people in the audience will know Mavis, and most of you will have heard of her. Mavis passed away a month ago following complications shortly after a serious fall, and her passing was really a shock to us all. We expected her to be here attending this conference, her 25th CMSF, an unbroken record from the annual gathering of industry super funds, which she founded way back in 1991. And Mavis desperately wanted to be here. As for me, I was fortunate enough to meet Mavis when she employed me as the CMSF conference manager back in 1994. I was a young 20-something and she took me under her wing, and what followed has been a very close 20-year friendship, and also a journey through what history will mark as the first stage in the growth of Australia's not-for-profit superannuation sector and the development of a world-class retirement income system. Mavis, of course, never thought small. From being a political activist through her time in the Communist Party, peace movement, feminist movement and so much more, Mavis found her way into super when she was working for the FEDFA, now part of the CFMEU, in the mid-1980s. The decade of the ACTU building a major movement to create universal superannuation and to embed retirement security as a right and not a privilege for Australian workers. The building unions were at the spearhead of this campaign, and they set up 2 superannuation funds, BUS and AUST, and Mavis was appointed the Fund Secretary of AUST. Not surprisingly, in a union full of men, Mavis got the job. And as we know, once Mavis got her foot in the door on something, it was destined never to be the same. Mavis cared deeply about building workers and their retirement security, as she did about all Australians' retirement security. Mavis always believed that a collective was stronger than any individual, a view that was also shared by Gary Weaven, who's also here today. And together, Mavis and Gary made one of the most formidable combinations of intellect, drive and knowledge that you could find in superannuation or anywhere else. Super was about to change. In 1990, the only industry body in existence was ASFA. Its then CEO came out in opposition to the proposed Keating government superannuation guarantee legislation, the political culmination of that decade-long campaign by the ACT and unions. ASFA would also not accept the new young industry funds as members, and in typical Mavis style, she wasn't going to take being locked out of anything. She simply proposed that the team in Sydney start a new and different organisation with its own annual conference where trustees of these new funds would be the focus, and both CMSF and AIST were born. Mavis believed then, and continues to believe, that as a new part of the superannuation industry, that we needed to build our own culture and philosophy and structures with a focus on members. CMSF then became the vehicle that brought together the not-for-profit sector. It's where we've spent the last 25 years debating our ideas, and policy around adequacy, commissions, fees, governance, workers' capital, ESG issues and climate change. And Mavis, of course, mentored many women over the years. In the early years of CMSF, Mavis developed the Women's Breakfast, a way for women to meet each other amongst a sea of grey suits. Out of this breakfast became Women in Super, run by Women for Women, and the Mother's Day Classic, both of which Mavis chaired for many, many years. To me, of all Mavis' greatest achievements, the Mother's Day Classic will be one of her greatest legacies. As we're going to hear in a minute, Mavis has been central to bringing many of the representative organisations that we have today into being, from AIST, ACSI, IFS, Women in Super, the Mother's Day Classic, the Super Cadets program, now the Graduates program, IFFP, and there's so many more that she's been involved in. You won't find any of the representative organisations that Mavis hasn't been central to and played a significant role in. Not many people can say at the end of their life that they have truly made a real difference, but Mavis has touched many people. She's one of a kind and she'll certainly be sorely missed. So to pay tribute to Mavis, we have a short video as really a mark of respect, which highlights some of the many organisations and people that Mavis has touched, particularly over the last 30 years that she spent in the superannuation industry. So to Mavis, and to a life well lived. Thank you.
Mavis Robertson, what's the word I think of? Indefatigable. I think that's Mavis to a T. The boundless energy of Mavis was incredible. Do you know, it was only the other day I was talking to someone in the office who was a super cadet, or formerly a super cadet, in their mid-20s, and they said what an inspiring woman and what a legacy she's left. She apparently addressed the super cadet meeting when they first joined the organisation and left a lasting impression. So Mavis's impression was generation to generation. I think she's left a wonderful legacy for us all to contemplate from time to time. I can remember being at the first CMSF conference down in Wollongong, the Broadbeach Hotel. Paul Keating was the guest speaker and Mavis was the initiator of this magnificent conference. I knew change was about to happen and Mavis Robertson was right in the middle of all that change.
Mavis, of course, will be remembered for her amazing contribution to the superannuation industry, to the Mother's Day Classic, to advancing, supporting and mentoring women. But I think it's important to remember that Mavis was, from the very beginning, a political activist. From her time in the Communist Party, through to fighting for workers' rights, through the union movement, and of course the wonderful work she did internationally through solidarity, for example, with the Chilean people. Mavis was a woman who lived her convictions, and I think that means that Mavis indeed had a wondrous life.
Look, many people will rightly recognise and pay regard to Mavis's great character and her achievements in specific fields like industry superannuation. But I also admired very deeply her lifetime, her commitment as a labour movement activist. She had very strongly held values, championing fairness, justice, equality, rights for women and many others in our community. And more than that, she put them into action. Mavis was a great campaigner and she put her values into specific outcomes that benefited people by working hard, bringing others together and campaigning very strongly. And that's a great way to spend your life.
I first met Mavis at CMSF about 25 years ago in Wollongong. I saw her on stage, she was running the show, and I thought, wow, I want to be just like her. She was inspirational, commanded attention, and as we all know, has proved to be a visionary for our industry. I was very lucky to count Mavis as my friend. She had an enormous influence on me, and her advice to me as a friend was, imagine what you can be and be what you can imagine. We will miss her.
Mavis's influence has been felt far beyond Australia. We all know she loved to travel internationally, but always with an agenda and a purpose. She brought us good ideas, she connected great people together, and she encouraged us always to do better. 20 years ago, Mavis came to the U.S. on study tours to learn how the U.S. pension system worked. Today, we realize that all along, we were the ones who were learning from Mavis.
Mavis is known and loved for the work that she did in Australia, but she was a true internationalist. She brought trustees here to CalPERS, and in turn was always very generous and welcoming for people involved with the pension fund movement globally to come and learn what was happening in Australia and the work that she was doing. So really for Mavis, pension fund trustees, pension funds needed to work together across borders. But Mavis was also a towering figure in this industry. She did not suffer fools gladly. She was tough, she was visionary, she was bold, she had ambition. She also had a heart of gold. She's one of the kindest people I've ever known. We'll miss her very much, and I know all of us take something very important away from having known her.
It's Mike Mozaraka at the site of the 64 World's Fair in New York City. In my neighborhood, we had a saying about people like Mavis. We call them a piece of work. Strong, talented, dedicated people who engage life in a way few others do. It's sort of fitting to be here under this globe, because Mavis is dedication to the peoples of this world and her love of life and to travel throughout it. Bye, Mavis.
Mavis will be known as one of the most courageous women in our history. Those of us who've been honoured to know her, to have the guidance of her mentorship, to be driven by her visions in solidarity, know what a force of nature this woman has been. Social justice was at her very core, not just for Australians, but indeed for the world. An internationalist, Mavis, if we ever fail to stand up, we will feel your reprimand. Farewell, Mavis, with love.
Mavis has touched so many lives, some people directly, some people in this room, many indirectly. Her contribution to the superannuation industry, to the women's movement, to the peace movement, to the labour movement has brought about a lot of change in public policy in Australian society, and the effects of those changes are going to be felt for many years to come. She was a very dear friend, and we will all miss her.
My last conversation with Mavis after her fall revolved around her extreme disappointment at the prospect of missing CMSF 2015. She wanted us all to celebrate 25 years of this great conference and was extremely disappointed that she knew she couldn't attend. Given her competitive nature, she was also, or even more, disappointed that that would leave Gary Weaven as perhaps the only person who would have attended all 25. The last thing that Mavis said to me was in fact another call to action. She said, "Kate, what are we going to do? What's Women in Super going to do about domestic violence?" And I have to admit, I had a bit of a sinking feeling and thought, is this mission creep for Women in Super? But on reflection, no. Many women are denied a happy life and a prosperous future through domestic violence, and they certainly won't have a happy retirement. So there is a role for us. So Mavis, we'll see what Women in Super can do.
Mavis was a great friend and mentor to me, as she was to many women in the industry. One of Mavis's greatest legacies, though, has got to be the Mother's Day Classic. This came from an idea that Mavis had when she was travelling in the US and saw a similar event taking place there. And Mavis was a woman who had that fantastic combination of having great ideas and then having the ability to see them through and actually make them happen. And that's what she did with the Mother's Day Classic. And we worked together on it for 18 years. And I think it's an amazing tribute to Mavis to see what she's done with breast cancer research.
In 1988, shortly after starting with Basse Nost, Mavis inherited me. Back then I did not know the importance of this. Mavis not only became my boss and mentor, but also my friend. Who else would take you into her home and cook dinner with you? After 20 years, Mavis gave me a card that said, "I used to be normal, but it drove me mad." And in it she wrote, "Anyone who has been working in industry super for as long as you and I is entitled to be a little bit mad. But it is great work to do." Well, if that is madness, so then be it. Mavis's friendship, generosity, knowledge, projects and ideas are all worth it. There is nobody in the room who hasn't been touched by Mavis, and it was worth it one way or the other, because it was always for a good cause. Mavis, I will miss you, but I never forget you.
Everybody knows that Mavis Robertson was a pretty extraordinary woman. She had so many talents and cared so much about people. I think that we also know that how strong and determined she was, but underpinning that strength and determination were fantastically strong values. And these were some of the things I think she passed on to many young people, and particularly women, through her mentoring and development programs. I'm very fortunate to have been one of those when I was younger. Mavis took me under her wing and helped develop me and develop many of my skills, and I'm very thankful for that. She cared a lot about people, and that's why she got involved. Mavis was never someone who just joined organisations. She was someone who got involved.
Well, Cbus wouldn't be where it is today without Mavis Robertson, a pioneer, a past chair, a past chief executive officer, but more than that, an inspiration to so many people in industry superannuation. She'll be sorely missed, of course, as someone who gave so much to so many and was an inspiration and a mentor to many people in the industry, and was that way right through her life.
Mavis Robertson was a giant of the Communist Party. She was a giant of the feminist movement, and she was a pioneer and leader in establishing superannuation for construction workers. Mavis was a mentor to many of us. She was a great friend. We're going to miss her enormously.
I always found Mavis very kind and generous. She was always wise in her counsel, and I will very much miss Mavis with her passing.
Mavis, dear colleague and friend, last time we chatted you were dismayed that you were not going to be able to make it to CMSF this year. We talked about possibly getting Andrew to come and film you despite the indignity of your facial injuries, and you were keen to pop up, as you said, at CMSF 2015. It didn't quite work out like we planned, but here we are. The key word that describes your life for me is vivid.
Mavis's early political engagement didn't only give her a sense of looking after those who are not so well off. It gave her an incredible ability to conceive of a problem and then find a concrete outcome to it and take it through to conclusion. Look at the organisations that she's been associated with. The Conference of Major Super Funds, the Australian Institute of Superannuation Trustees, ACSI, the Australian Council for Super Investors, Cbus. All of those bear her unmistakable stamp. But look, she was a terrific grande dame in some ways. She loved the ballet, she loved the opera, she had quite expensive tastes in clothing, and she had a really good eye for good collectible art and really, really lovely jewellery. What a formidable package.
Mavis, my friend, my colleague, mentor to many. You gave us much advice. We had such good times. You and I enjoyed quite a few bottles of excellent red wine. You often scared me, Mavis, but then that always made me better. I think the same for many other people. So thank you, we'll miss you, and we really won't know what to do without you.
There was hardly a creative idea or campaign or innovation that Mavis didn't collaborate on or play some significant role in, and Mavis was as solid as red gum.